turned him on.
Oh, we're live.
Turned him on is the last thing.
They turned him on to what
Welcome,
they asked,
everyone.
the Knights of Prospect podcast. But anyway, that's a story for another time.
Welcome everyone to the Knights of Prospect. This is a fully improvised Dungeon World role-playing game starring a bunch of us, all of us who are on screen. My name is Rob Mulligan. I am playing Ronaldo, Francis Mackay IV, and you will be seeing tonight just a big old arc of fantasy fun and chaos and maybe terror. Who knows? Things ended weird last time, but I wasn't here. But I am here now, so I'm gonna be scared. Who else wants to be part of this intro?
Oh, well.
Both of us would.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Hello, I am Winnie. I am also a bard, and I, am coming back into my powers after losing them a couple sessions ago. But we're here. We are fearless and terribly confused as well.
Hey everybody, I'm Samit. I'm playing Raspberry Snowberry. I play a cleric and a healer. And last you saw me, I was in the Battle of Etima, hacking and slashing at some bad mofos. Haven't been in a battle in a while, so it felt really good. Happy to be here. Excited to see what we're up against.
Yes, indeed. And I am John Serpico. I am the game master for Knights of Prospect. I was just looking here. This is Knights of Prospect episode 27.
27.
Wow. We are over half a year long, which means this whole pandemic is over half a year long.
More so, even.
More so, even. And, Knights of Prospect is unique. So for those that may be watching for the first time, Knights of Prospect is unique in many ways. It's a live play, but it's driven really by these great characters. And also, it's driven by more characters than there are currently on screen. We have 8 regular players, and between 3 and 4 play every episode. So as Winnie, Ronaldo, and Raz are saying, all this stuff is happening, and all these different kind of players and characters are sharing the load. So what's very exciting about this this current episode, this current arc, is none of the folks playing were playing last week when everyone kind of got to this point. So as far as a recap for them and for the audience,
previously on Knights of Prospect.
The big story is that in the middle of this group of adventurers being inducted into the Knights of Prospect, there was this big magical attack upon their chapter house, their headquarters, and all of the current Knights of Prospect vanished. And it was up to these 8 recruits to defend the chapter house from a sudden and completely different attack. And so they thought the two things were connected. And after they successfully defended their chapter house, they found out that there was a literal century-old letter addressed to them deep in the archives of their new headquarters, telling them to travel west to this holy site called Technus. And so they did that. And when they arrived at Technus last week, they found that all of the Knights of Prospect that had vanished a week and a half, 2 weeks earlier, were all here and in good health and apparently working on something big. And the person that was seemingly in charge is a badly scarred version of Archmage Akka, the powerful wizard that one of the characters, Chauncey, essentially returned from the dead. Mm-hmm. But the only problem is Akka was in their hometown that they just left. So there are apparently 2 Akkas.
And there's so much has happened up to this point that John, would there be a great venue or avenue or, I don't know, medium to catch up on Knights of Prospect?
Ronaldo, that is a great question. All of our the first season of our episode, the first 17 episodes, is now up as the Knights of Prospect podcast. It is available wherever you get your podcasts. It's you got your Podbean, you got your Apple Podcasts, you got your Spotify. It's absolutely everywhere. And there's a great theme song from Melissa Carubia of the great band Minus World. It is beautifully sound engineered by Will Gianetta, and what's nice about it is the episodes are all between 60 and 75 minutes, and you get this whole great arc. So the whole first season is on as a podcast, and if you like our faces, you can watch all of our previous episodes on YouTube as well. So you don't have to just rely on my previously on to fully catch up here. So speaking of catching up, I say let's just get right to it. So Raz, Ronaldo, Winnie, you and the rest of your adventuring group, the newest Knights of Prospect, are currently standing on the Great Plateau of Teknis, which is a holy site for followers of Enteresh. And so before I go any further, Raz, why is the Plateau of Teknis a holy site?
This is another place where Enteresh had accomplished one of his miracles. So we visited his first miracle many, many weeks ago in the Blue Hills, and this is a place of his second miracle where a plague had infected many people in the surrounding villages, and from one night to the next he was able to cure the plague and return health to everyone in the land. So on this particular plateau is where people brought their children and their loved ones, and he cured them one by one.
Yeah, this is an incredibly powerful place, a place that is associated with healing and hope. And so it was very weird that that this was also the site of what until really just now you thought was a magical attack upon the Knights of Prospect. You all kind of discovered through the prophecies that you found at Etama and through, kind of Chauncey's research and other research, that a group of assassins, magical terrorists, something, attacked your chapter house from this plateau, which is weird that they would do it from a holy site so associated with healing and hope. But now that you're here, you realize whatever happened is far, far, far more complicated. All of the Knights of Prospect are here, and they are well. They are happy is probably not the right word, but they're all very, very gladdened that you all came. The plateau is covered in tents and supplies. It looks like they've established like a base on top of this plateau. It's under... it's in the side of this mountain that is just north of Sepulchre City in the Theocracy of Enteresh, where you all are. And, like all of this is happening and you're really having trouble processing it because you were literally up until an hour or two ago certain that you were coming here to like find their bodies. But they are alive and they are well. There are two people you definitely don't know. Well, there's one you don't know and one you do. At least you think so. Aside from all the Knights of Prospect, there is an elf here named Sister Ix, who is like the her arms and her neck, like the parts of her that are not covered in clothes and leather armor, are covered in golden tattoos. And then the other person here is someone you thought you knew well because you saw him in Tower Town before you left. Archmage Akka, the former Archmage of Tower Town that Chauncey essentially returned from the dead, rescued his soul, I suppose. And for as long as he's been back, none of you have trusted him, even after he essentially told you to break into his house. Apparently everything he'd done to try to convince you of his worth and trustworthiness did not work on you. And so one of the last people you saw before you sailed here was Archmage Akka, who you kicked out of your chapter house. But now here he is here. Only he looks different. He's covered in this weird runic battle armor. He's got a big broadsword across his back. The whole side of his face is covered in just like a lace work of scars. And he is staring at you without that kind of outward friendliness that the Archmage Akka would. He is, in point of fact, putting on no airs at all. He is just kind of staring at you. Sister Ix whispers something to him. And then Archmage Akka, this weird scarred Archmage Akka, speaks to Thud Marek, the Knight of Prospect that all of you kind of know the best out of anyone. Right in the middle of the induction. That would explain why I didn't get them. And Thud Marek nodded. Archmage Akka looks at all of you. Well, I suppose I should apologize then. I meant to bring every Knight of Prospect here. I thought I had timed the ritual just right. I did not.
Why? I need some whys right now. Let's cut to the chase. Why were you timing it? For what reason? Because right when you timed it, a lot had transpired. And also, might I add, that scar on the side of your face is different.
Are you saying that right before Etama was attacked, you took all of the Knights of Prospect, excluding ourselves, out of there? For what purpose?
To save you all?
Go on. I feel like more to that than just...
There is. All of this has not worked out as I had hoped, and I'm sorry for that. I cannot stress enough how sorry I am.
Best laid plans.
Right. First off, if it would make you feel better, you can call me Tobias. That's my birth name. Every Archmage takes on a name when they are ascended to the status of Archmage. Before that, I was just Tobias. And Tobias I will be for sake of all of this. All right, I'll start from the beginning. Ask me questions. Enteresh knows I have plenty myself. Years ago, and I mean years ago, about 5 years ago, I learned of a plot by the Mackay family to topple the government of Tower Town and break the line of Archmages.
Uh-huh.
What?
Ronaldo, you already know this, I suppose.
Yeah, I have all of the information tucked away somewhere safe and secure.
Sister Ix whispers to him, but just loud enough for you to hear. I think it's in his vest pocket. And Tobias nods.
Ronaldo squints.
The Mackays were going to break the line of Archmages, and I thought, I believed, and I still do, that they would have help from the Catavian Regency to the north. Some highborn cousin of the Catavian regent would be installed. The Mackays would be the power behind the throne. I was outnumbered, and so I wanted to even the odds. I tried to create copies of myself, all united in purpose. Before I go any further, I have to ask, have you heard this story before from someone?
I don't think so. Not to the best of my knowledge.
Okay.
I have not.
Okay, that's okay, I think. Sister Ix jots down some notes. I tried to create copies. Several copies, all united in purpose. We were going to unify together. There would be several of us, several of the same Archmage, all working to undo this grand plot against the city. The first experiment I tried was confusing and unnerving. I walked into a ritual chamber, and frankly, two of us walked out. Truth be told, I'm not sure if I'm even the copy or not. I don't know if I am me. I don't know if I was the person born to my parents. I have all of the memories. I think I'm me, but so did the other Archmage Akka that walked out of that room.
I would like to do the discern realities on how full of baloney this man might be.
Please discern realities on the baloney of this gentleman.
Oh, that is a 9. Is it a... Oh, wait. Yes, it is a 9.
All right.
9 baloney.
So discern realities with a 9. That means you can ask me, the GM, one question, and I will answer it with absolute truth and certainty.
What here is not what it appears to be?
So far, nothing at all.
Huh.
No baloney.
Not a single one. No sandwiches to be made.
This Archmage Akka believes everything he is telling you.
So I would like to cast divination.
Sure. Cast divination. This is going to, if successful, this is going to grant you a vision of something.
Yeah. So this
What
will
did you
be 6, 7.
You are on the holy site of Technus, the site of Enteresh's second miracle. That 7 bumps to a 10. This is a full success.
Okay.
Yeah, you are literally standing on one of the great ley lines of human faith. What person, place, or thing do you want to be granted a vision of right now?
The unscarred Akka.
What does it look like when you cast divination? How does it work?
So normally, in the company of my friends, I look up to the sky and I yell, "Please grant me a sight of Akka." But in this moment, in front of our new friends, the Knights of Prospect, I don't want to create a scene. So I'm just going to close my eyes and whisper it.
You do, and you get that feeling of the ground under you shaking and your lungs filling with the air of a different place. You know your eyes are closed, but it feels like they open. The Archmage Akka you know is in Tower Town, in Archmage Bassia's office, which used to be his. She is sitting at her desk, writing in kind of big flowing script a proclamation. Archmage Akka is kind of pacing in front of it, occasionally looking and making suggestions. You see Archmage Akka walk to a window and stare out at Tower Town and closes his eyes for a moment and nods his head. And now you're back here again at Technus.
I'm going to pull Ronaldo and Winnie to the side.
Sidebar?
Sidebar.
Sidebar.
Guys, there are 2 Akkas. I had a vision of a second one.
Well,
Tobias,
Yes.
who did Chauncey recover?
Sister Ix was able to grant me a sight similar to what I believe, Raz, you just used. That was the other copy, I think. Well, That was the first copy, I think. Let me go on. My plan was to pull out the Mackay family by the root and then send a delegation to Catavia to sue for a cessation of political hostilities. I am sorry to say, Ronaldo, that if my plan came to pass, you and your entire family would be in a jail. One without windows that you would never come out of, including you.
I thought you were going to slaughter us, so honestly, keep going.
If I am Tobias and the person you were talking to was Akka, I'll use that term. Akka favored subterfuge instead of directness. He insisted that there were more than just the Mackay families involved. He began sensing threats from Avonbury, from the other city-states. We were both, to the outside world, a single person, but he was using our influence to recruit mercenaries that were loyal to him and plant them into the silver helmets of Tower Town. One day, he actually came to my office and accused me of being a hindrance to the protection of Tower Town, that I was in the way of his protection of the city.
Wait, hold on 1 second before you continue. You both had separate offices?
Yeah.
So the reason I'm asking that, to me, that implies that this is not brand new information. The fact that there are multiple of you is not a thing that's a surprise to anyone except us. So there are people who can vouch for you and who know of the two Akkas.
The person that wasn't being Archmage Akka that day kept another identity and used an office in a hotel in Tower Town.
Huh.
The owner of that hotel would know that a traveling merchant with the name Tobias was staying there.
Okay.
But of course, there were two Tobiases, just as there were two Akkas.
Oh, because you were switching.
Because we were switching. But this is where things get complicated.
This is where things get complicated?
This is where things get complicated.
Oh, boy.
Oh, good.
Akka called me to a meeting in the woods on a site of a ley line. 4 other Archmage Akkas appeared.
What?
He was making more copies. We fought. He had the upper hand. They had the upper hand, but I was able to trap him in my own spell book. I think that was the Akka that you have been talking to since his return.
That is consistent with the story.
I was badly hurt. I buried the spell book in the woods, and I fled. I have spent the last 5 years tracking down and killing my copies, and there is now one left. Because apparently, and he points to Chauncey, who's listening to all of this, that young wizard found the book, took that book to the Obsidian Plane, and the other Archmage Akka made a deal with an extraplanar being to return to the real world. It is my belief that he is right this moment continuing his plans.
Well, let's not blame the boy. He didn't know what he was doing. He made a small
Chauncey
mistake.
should understand that there are consequences to his actions.
Certainly.
But does he?
No, which is why I don't think we have to let this one slide.
No, I don't think so either. Frankly, considering the amount of extraplanar deals this young child seems to be able to make, it's quite powerful, and that's a problem.
It's a gift for some, a curse for
Why I
everyone
never
else.
had children.
Hmm.
No other reason.
Okay. No one was asking.
I knew that time was short. Sister Ix's visions were becoming more grim and more dire. She believed that there would be a great and damning event that would destroy the Knights of Prospect, and Sister Ix believes that all of you in the Knights of Prospect are crucial for the survival of not only the Riverlands, but not only Tower Town, but all of the Riverlands. All we could do was go to this holy site, create a ritual large enough to teleport you all away. Here and only here could we make our next steps. But the fact is, Archmage Akka freed himself from the prison that I put him in.
Forgive me for a moment, Tobias. As it stands, there's no reason for us to trust you. As it stands, you may be Akka. You may have duplicated the Knights of Prospect to serve you, and you may be duping us in this moment. Maybe Unscarred Akka is the real one. We have no reason to trust you at this moment.
I suppose that is fair. That said, I think there is something that we can do. Further up this mountain is the Cavern of Sages. The government of the Theocracy sealed it off over a century ago with a big, heavy, magically enchanted gate. We have not opened it. Frankly, we wanted to wait until everyone was here. I want the three of you to go up to it, break that seal, and enter the Cavern of Sages. I and even Sister Ix do not know what is beyond it, but we know that it is a place of immense power, and we know that it might be able to grant you some kind of insight.
But what would it grant you? Again, we don't know if we can trust you, because sure, we might be able to get some insight, but if we don't get some insight, how do we not know that we're unleashing some super powerful weapon for another Akka causing havoc on the world? We need something, some sort of assurance.
Archmage Akka calls a couple of the Knights of Prospect over, Thudmeric and Skalvian the Terror. And they start taking his armor off. As the armor comes off, he starts to visibly shrink in size. It looks like he's aging, in point of fact.
Oh, gosh.
At the end, he's wearing a pair of pants and a thin shirt, and he doesn't look a day under 70. The scars that cover his face also cover his entire side. And in point of fact, with this armor off, you know that he's missing one of his arms.
Oh.
He asks Gregory, Vil, Chauncey, Hazel, and Jelly to stand in a circle around him with weapons drawn. He then sits cross-legged. You three go up the mountain. At any sign at all, make a signal from there. Between the two bards and the priest, I'm sure you can think of something. The second you make any signal at all, your companions will kill me, and I cannot stop them.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Expect to hear a piercing scream from me as signal.
You hear Gregory's knuckles crack within his armored gloves. And you start climbing the mountain.
I hate to say that the more evil-looking Akka gives me much better energy. He just seems more trustworthy, and that's why I don't trust him. Because I didn't trust the other one, and then I started to trust him, and now I don't know.
Something about a man with scars. I don't know. It's he's seen a lot. And I wonder if there's more to this story than he's letting on.
Oh, I'm sure.
Seems like it. At the moment, I don't trust either of them, to be honest. If
Right.
there are those two, there could be any number of other Akkas.
A copy could just be two warring people. Like one of them is trying to outrun the other and
Mhm.
win the other, for lack of a better term. They could have both dueling terrible intentions.
Raz, what do you know about the place that we're going to? Anything?
So this is a place where the words of Enteresh were written down by sages for the first time. So for many, many years, the epics of Enteresh were passed on verbally. But in this cave, they were written amongst a group of sages. And so they were stored, those epics were stored here. Nobody really knows if they still exist there or if they were moved somewhere else. They were never found again. Some copies were made, bits and pieces were put together, and those are thought to be the words of Enteresh, and that's what we go by now. But there's a chance that the original stone-carved epics are still somewhere. They may be there. The place itself is supposed to house a lot of energy, a lot of religious energy.
How long has it been sealed?
Hundreds of years. Before I was born, before my mentor was born. It wasn't written down when it happened, but for generations, it's just been known as the sealed cave.
The theocracy of Enteresh, the country you're in, it's a relatively new country, a few hundred years old. And some of the rumors of its founding were that a group of pilgrims decided to create a land in which they could protect this very place. So you are all opening a seal that hasn't been opened in centuries.
I'm sure it'll be just a simple padlock, or
Maybe we can dig under a wall.
perhaps a stone we can just shift to the side.
Maybe I'll sing a song to open it.
That would honestly be the simplest solution.
The climb takes several hours. You climb through the early morning dawn, and there's a hazy sun over you. It's very cold up here. And you find yourself, after working through these switchbacks and handholds, these overgrown, there isn't some pilgrim's road to come up here. People do not come here. And so you're kind of walking up these strange paths, some of them covered in heavy stones. You have to free climb. And eventually you get to this kind of landing that's all overgrown with, vines and things. You pull them aside and set into the face of the mountain is a silver gate, not much larger than a single person. It is very, very humble. There are no great runes above it. It's not crackling with magical energy. It is, at least you don't think it is. It is a very simple silver gate. And on one side is something that looks like a lock, but there is no keyhole in it.
I just hold the lock with my hand just to see if it does anything.
Beat me to it.
Raz, roll 2d6 plus your constitution, please.
Well, 9. 9 plus 1, 10.
Hey.
Oh, good. You can ask Enteresh himself one question right now.
Whoa.
Enteresh, how do we enter this cave?
I mean,
Let's see what he says. Let's just
you
see
could
what he
ask
says.
him anything.
Your life's purpose is dedicated to this man, and you are like,
This is
"Huh,
why.
open the gate."
This is why
I'm
you
comfortable.
arrived.
I'm comfortable with my life's purpose.
You what?
I said I'm comfortable with my life's purpose, so I
Good.
figured a practical question would help us.
A lock takes a key.
Oh no!
A key in 3 pieces that you
Maybe.
already have.
The
I
3 of
add
us.
my.
Yes.
I was gonna say I add my hand on top of Raz's on the lock. There's 3 of us.
Mm-hmm.
Eagle claw, and I go all the way on top.
All of you have something that you've been carrying for your entire life. All of you have something. Keepsake, whatever. Winnie, what is yours? What is something you just have carried with you for throughout your life?
Sure. I carry a small stone that my sister gave me when we first went exploring out in the woods behind our house.
Ronaldo?
An ace from an old deck of cards that has been beat and bent and folded up, and I consider my lucky charm.
Raz?
The Levin's former soul stone, the stone in which his soul had been captured, I had carried around with me until recently. His stone has been freed, but I held on to it just as a reminder of where a soul can be.
As you're all there with your hands on the lock, you all instinctually reach for these things and take them out with your other hand. Winnie, the stone that you've held, and you've had it for decades, in fact, and it's always been smooth, but you realize it's pocked, like it's starting to be eaten away by salt air. And it's warm. Raz, the faceted soul stone that you have has a crack in it.
What?
And Ronaldo, that ace, that card, as crumpled and wrinkled as it is actually starting to flatten out and smooth. And
all right.
One of
Hey, look how nice.
One of the A's, one of the letters on it is starting to rise out of it and harden.
Oh. All right.
Winnie, the stone in your hand eventually turns to dust. And in it is the small steel shaft of a key. Raz, the soul stone you have cracks apart finally and spits out a small disc. And Ronaldo, that ace you have kind of splits in half into the teeth of a key.
Oh. Here we go.
Those 3 pieces fit together. And once they do, you put them into the hole in the lock that forms. And the gate swings open.
Ready?
I guess.
Sure.
You walk into a cave, you light a torch or a lantern. And the cave itself is all rough-hewn, though the floor is flat and smooth. And after you walk a few feet into this cave, you realize you're walking over this large silver disc. And written in the old high tongue of Enterash is the phrase, "May the villainous who pass this seal lament their dire choice."
Well, I'm good, so I feel fine.
I reconciled with my sister, so the only thing that really was holding me back is somewhat resolved.
I feel now that Levin's soul has been released into the world that my greatest sin is also resolved, so I think we're safe to move on.
Well, now I'm doubting myself because I feel like those were much more weighty than my snap justification that I'm fine.
Ronaldo, think. Is there anything else that might incinerate you at moment's notice?
You gave up your family to Knights of Prospect.
I did because they were, well, I kind of coasted through most of my life because it's very easy to be a noble. I mean, you get anything you want all the time, and I decided to stand up for what's right. So eventually I became good.
In the face of overwhelming privilege, you did the bare minimum.
I did the bare
That's all you can ask.
Thank you, Winnie. Thank you. Ronaldo steps forward proudly.
Girded because you have cast off the weight of privilege. You step over the seal.
I feel like lighter than I've ever felt before.
And you all do, and you proceed deeper into this cave. There is now a heavy door. Now, this is old. So old, in fact, you don't even know what the door is made out of. It's stone, could be ancient metals that the world doesn't know of anymore. But it's a heavy door with an absolutely huge handle on it, this giant bar. And it's sealed shut.
Push or pull?
I mean, I figured we'd push the bar up and then push out.
I stand back and watch.
Mm-hmm. Raz and Ronaldo, you each take 3 damage. What does it feel like exactly?
Like tingling, burning. You know, when your hand goes numb and you get that, like, the blood rushes back really quickly. Sort of that pain, but more.
Like when you pass your arm over a candle and it singes off the little hairs on your arm?
Yeah, you do, and you the effort of it is exhausting, and everything from your elbow down feels heavy but also light, and numb but also on fire. You can't feel your fingers. You have trouble even moving your hands.
I want to try to tap into the kind of the like humming music of the space to try to understand what magic is happening here. See if anything. I kind of let out a and let it resonate.
Sure. Roll 2d6 plus your 2d6 plus your charisma. Tell me what you get.
It's 8.
Okay. And you kind of reach the resonant frequency of the door. And what comes back is this lyric to this song. It's like this enigmatic song that you've never really understood. It's almost like a children's rhyme. If you have it, you want to share it. But if you share it, you don't have it anymore.
If you have it, you want to share it. But if you share it, you don't have it anymore. Huh. I learned that song as a child. Share it.
Isn't that song about memories? Do we have to share a memory and then lose a memory?
Yeah, just like we lost an item to enter.
All right, I imagine it has to be a good one. If it was a bad one, that feels very against everything we've dealt up to this point.
Well, who has some overwhelmingly good memories that they're willing to sacrifice to this door?
Well, this is tough, but before I became a priest, I entered a church and stole some of the items that were on display, some iconography of Entourage. I was just looking for something to eat, and in that moment, I was caught by a priest who immediately forgave me, and that set me on my path to becoming a priest.
You feel, Raz, the color of that memory start to fade. As if you read about it. Like you read a story about that. And then you realize you can't remember the specifics of the story. And then you think, well, where did I hear that?
I think it happened to me anyway. That was me, I'm pretty sure. Or maybe it was a story I read.
I kind of remember the moment that, I mean, maybe this isn't a happy moment, but it feels like an important moment. I remember the moment that kind of kicked me awake to stop just existing. I remember watching a guard punish a child for stealing bread. That child was very clearly hungry and it needed it. And the bread was probably pence. It was a small scrap. And if for the first time ever I had to consider, I've never thought about being hungry. And I went home and I thought more about it, and I decided that maybe I should change my ways. Maybe I'm just kind of letting this happen. Maybe my inaction is just as evil as those who actively do evil. I think.
I remember the time that I first sang in front of a group of strangers. I was overwhelmingly nervous. I had so many doubts about myself. And I was riding off the shame of where these powers had come from. And I just remember standing in the center of the stage, looking out and just closing my eyes and letting the music in the air channel through me. It's the first time I felt at peace.
Maybe you all read about those things, or they were a song lyric, something. As you recount them, you know they sound good. And then you wonder, why exactly did you say that if those things didn't happen to any of you? But it felt appropriate to say it. You all put your hands back on the door and it opens. You are now in a place that hasn't had anyone in it for several hundred years.
Whoa.
And the first thing that hits you is the smell of flowers.
Huh.
Bouquets of flowers. You see them now. Bouquets of flowers. And you feel kind of this rush of air, and the flowers immediately start to wilt and fall apart.
Oh no.
Oh no.
And then you kind of wait. And you're, okay, what? In here, in this room, is what could best be described as treasure. Literal treasure in this room. Giant gold goblets, bars of pure silver, gems, things that look like gifts, rare fabrics that somehow survived the test of time, all in here. But you keep walking past them, and you descend a flight of stairs. And you kind of walk through this archway, and then there's this small, very humble door. And written in a language that, Raz, you don't recognize yet can understand. It says, kind of carved deeply into the wall, "Blessed be those who etch what has happened and what will into the stone of ages."
I read it again just so I can process it. What was it?
Blessed be those
Blessed be those
who etch what has happened and what will happen into the stone of ages.
who etch what has happened and will happen into the stone of ages.
Oh, we wish we
Do we-
had the letter from Vil. So probably that would have been good.
Well, I mean, we have the gist of that letter,
I think.
which is that that the Knights of Prospect will defend the world from a great evil that's coming.
But
Basically.
so far, the doors have taken an item of great value. They've taken a memory. They've taken our past.
Oh, you think
What can we give them of our future?
you think it's something we will be destined to do, or something that we will never do?
Or something
We,
that we will cause.
or pledge to do?
Wait.
That's so tough.
We
ambiguous.
write in the stone, we will find the truth, and the truth turns out to be something horrifying and it consumes us all, or what has happened and what will happen. I mean, do you think we could start with what has happened and then kind of go from there? Or do you think it will sort of force our hand and we'll have to start writing what will happen? Honestly, I talked
is
Yeah,
myself.
it
you're
more
good.
in front
Your
of
guess
us?
is as good as fine.
Oh gosh, I'm getting so overwhelmed.
Okay, somebody just start carving something. Let's see if our hands get guided.
All right, you guys touched it first the last time. I'll etch something.
Okay.
Yeah, there's this small little kind of stone table. It's like a little pillar. And on it is like a hammer and a chisel. And the door itself is this small, humble stone door, but on it is kind of this slate disc. What do you start chiseling into it?
I look back at Raz and Ronaldo, and I think about the work that we've all done, and I start to chisel. We will help the helpless into the stone.
Okay. Winnie, Raz, and Ronaldo. On each of your character sheets, I want you to write that down
Oh my gosh.
under the things you can do that only you can do section. That exact phrase. Here's how this is going to work. Whenever you are in a position to do that, if you do it, you will get a +1 to any action towards that aim. Whenever you are helping the helpless, you get +1. Whenever you refuse to, you need to roll 2d6. If you fail, you die.
Maybe I should have consulted you all before.
I feel like if I would have written something worse, it would have been like, we will breathe air. And it's like, whenever you stop breathing, you die.
Well, I think that happens anyways.
Winnie,
Well, I
think
meant, oh, that's true.
this is perfect. This is what the Knights of Prospect stand for. This is what we should do. This is
Of
the right
course.
thing to write.
The door opens. And Raz, you know what is behind this door. This is the room of carving within the Cavern of Sages. The place where the apostles of Enteresh carved tales and carved visions into the great stone slabs.
Wow.
These are
There.
the original.
Some look to have been taken, but many are still here. As a priest and 2 bards of great knowledge, I want each of you to describe one of these great stone carvings, a thing that has happened in the past of this world.
My eye is immediately drawn to a small carving in the far corner of the room where 2 small children appear to be entering a cave, but further along in the image, within that cave is a stone of power. And further on, the depiction indicates that the first child to touch this stone collapses and disappears, leaving their sibling alone.
There's a large carving of a it seems to be a huge humanoid, almost detailed to look like it's glowing above a city, and several smaller humanoids that are also above the city but not as large, that seem to be almost having complete control or sort of dominating this sort of area just by their mere presence. And the immediate image right after is a small child holding what appears to be a skull.
My eye is drawn to a pictogram, which reflects a story. It seems that there are a bunch of families that are huddled together, and around them there is a bubble, and the bubble seems to be created by someone, which I presume to be Enteresh. And this bubble is protecting the families from magic. So outside of it, you see sorcerers who are sending what looks like magic at these people, and the bubble is protecting them. And what I get from that is that faith can protect you from magic.
These are all things that have happened. These are all things that you know have happened, either through song or through scripture or through teaching or through study. These reference these touchstone moments of the living condition of this world. And you all kind of walk through. It's like walking through these freeze frames of the human and elven and dwarven and halfling condition. These these moments that are real and textured. And you walk forward, and in front of you, all of your eyes are drawn to it at once. It's this great relief, probably 10 feet across, intricately carved, beautiful. It must have, if this was a work of one person's hand, it would have taken their entire life to do this.
Wow.
On it is a scene of battle. In the background, Tower Town burns. It's Tower Town, some kind of Tower Town. You start looking at the rooftops and trying to get a sense of how it all looks, and it's not now. You don't know if this is ancient or the future or what, but you see the tower, and the perspective of this carving puts the bay behind you and a ship in the harbor. Standing at the gates of Tower Town, with Tower Town at their back, standing and squaring off against some evil that is not depicted, are incredibly detailed, incredibly textured, and incredibly lifelike versions of yourself. Raz, you are standing with your arms out and your face pointed towards the heavens. And through a marvel of stone carving, it's as if a beam of holy light is bathing you in strength. Ronaldo, you see yourself carrying this torn war standard with one hand and ordering a cluster of soldiers forward with the other. Winnie, you see Lena first, your sister, and then yourself. The two of you are in the foreground, kind of pitched forward, singing towards something together. All of your friends are there. All of your allies are there. Gregory and Tobias are locked arm in arm, holding up cestus and broadsword, screaming towards some enemy together. This carving is at least 500 years old.
The carving it's clear that it is the Tobias we were just speaking to, the one with the scarred face, or is it an Akka?
It's Tobias. Wearing his runic armor.
This must be tied to Ville's purpose? The
prophecy?
See?
I mean, I'm just going to say it. I still don't trust the guy, but I feel like now I have to trust the guy.
I
Wait.
mean, how could our faces be here from 500 years ago? There's something deeper than magic going on here.
Wait, the letter, it was addressed from Elva the Seer. So maybe there's a clue about her here. And I immediately start looking at other reliefs and anything to give a clue of her touch or whereabouts or anything.
You pour through kind of these hallways is a wrong term for it. It's these tendrils of open space through the hard rock of this mountain. Hanging on walls, leaned against outcroppings, are statues and carvings and big reliefs like this one. And you search and you don't know for how long. You're drinking from this deep well of knowledge. It's so overwhelming, in fact. You realize you could spend the rest of your life in here studying these things. And it's almost now like a manic search. Like you don't know what you're looking for, but you know you're going to find something.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually you do in this little kind of low-ceilinged kind of cave. There are reliefs, kind of busts of 4 heads. All look like they're carved together. They're all connected at the base. One of the heads is Wone, the first apostle of Enteresh, who, you know, you're not a priest, but you know this. Wone was responsible for essentially foreseeing the great dangers that would befall mankind on the continent and preparing them for them. There are 2 other heads as well, and when Raz and Winnie eventually catch up to you, they kind of deduce who they are. They're other kind of famed clairvoyants from the last several hundred years. And then the head at the very end, like all of them have names. So there's Wone, and then there's the name of the second and the third.
Avrahal.
Avrahal, and the third is named Winnie. This is a famed clairvoyant, a famed elven clairvoyant.
Of course. Dreda.
Wone, Avrahal, Dreda. And then the fourth is, instead of a name carved in the old language of Enteresh, there is a small, almost business-like carving that says, "We do not believe her born yet." And it is the head of Elva the Seer.
Huh.
So this was made before her.
This was made before her. Is there a slot for more heads? Does this seem like a complete series?
It's a complete series of 4 apparently great clairvoyants.
Okay.
From the last several centuries.
Understood.
And apparently it was made after 3 of them were born, but before the 4th was. That 4th being Elva.
You know, people search their entire lives for a purpose in life, and clearly we have ours. It's to defend Tower Town from some great evil. It's written here from hundreds of years ago.
Yeah.
I go back to examine the content of the scene. Is there a clear indication of what we're fighting?
No. Well, I'll put it to you this way. Do you want there to be?
Oh.
Little column A, little column B.
I want there to be a hint. A ghost of a wisp of something. The nature of what we're fighting against.
Or will be.
Will be.
Or already have. Time is crazy in here.
Okay.
Or never will. I don't know if I prescribe to the idea that our fates are set into stone.
Well,
I mean, our fate is
asked.
literally set into stone right now.
Well, you know, metaphorically set into stone, Ronaldo.
I know.
Okay. Since you asked,
Oh boy.
I want you, Winnie, to roll 2d6 plus your wisdom. Here, before you tell me what it is, on either a 10 or higher or a 6 or lower, it's going to be someone that you know. On a 7 to 9, it's going to be someone that you don't.
Ooh.
5.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Is that someone we know?
That's someone we know.
That feels like a bad someone we know.
I don't know.
You-
Or someone we don't want it to be. Oh gosh. Dungeon world system.
Now,
It's
this is
us.
all... Winnie, this is all conjecture here, because you don't... It's almost as if this relief was painted from the perspective of this oncoming enemy. It was carved as the last line of defense that this enemy is rushing towards to destroy Tower Town and topple the great civilization of its coast. And so you don't see what it is. But there are these clues, these things that you see placed, the angle of things, the shadows of things. And it's very weird. But you're pretty sure the thing you're fighting is Chauncey.
Oh,
Damn
I
it.
knew he was secretly evil.
Oh, we don't know that it's Chauncey. It just looks like Chauncey. Maybe it's another kid wizard.
And that looks like you, and that looks like Winnie. Everyone
Maybe
is
it's
hanging out.
Maybe
All
it's
I
a
know-
duplicate.
I need you two to swear that we will not tell Chauncey of this. He cannot know. He is the definition of self-fulfilling prophecy. The second an idea gets in his head, it has to
Gonna do
happen.
it. Oh my gosh, you're right.
We can't tell him this.
You don't think by telling him? Well, yeah, never mind. I don't
know that this is the right choice, but you know him, right? What we've seen is that the second the seed of an idea grows in his head, he is powerful. He is a great wizard, well beyond the abilities he should have at his age. I think it's important to have this knowledge, but I don't think that we should share it. Not yet.
I mean, I agree with you. On the other hand, whether we tell him or not, it seems like this is what's going to happen.
But how does fate work, right? Is this fated? Are these vague details? I mean, they're literally set in stone. Like I said, but everything else, what leads us to this point, we can affect and we can guide and maybe we can mitigate the damage.
And we don't know the outcome of this image. All it shows is a great battle. It doesn't show what happens afterwards. It doesn't show anything getting destroyed at all. Really, there's so much flexibility in the interpretation of this. Fate is not set in stone.
I have to steal that sword from Chauncey.
Oh God. Oh my God.
I have to steal that sword from Chauncey. That sword has to go. That's number one. Number two, I need a drink. That's what I need.
What are we going to tell them when we get back? Tobias is going to want to know what information we found out in this cave. What are we going to tell him?
We're going to tell him that Tower Town is going to be under attack by a powerful wizard, and it's up to the Knights of Prospect to stop it. And that's all we're going to say.
We'll say that we'll tell them the truth, how we got in here. We had to give up something physically important to us, an actual memory, and we had to make a very binding promise that cannot be unbound. We gave up a lot just to find out the information, which also proves that this is the good Tobias is good Akka, and Akka is bad Tobias.
Mhm.
That's not confusing. I'm glad they go by different names now. Tobias is good. Akka probably not good.
Agreed. The question is, what do we tell our fellow knights? Do we tell them about Chauncey? We can't all keep it a secret from Chauncey.
We can't. And we can't all keep it a secret from them.
I think for now, we'll keep this knowledge to ourselves. And if we have to dole it out strategically, then we will. But I think that's going to be a decision we make on a case-by-case basis. I agree that it's going to be... Chauncey will know if all of us are tiptoeing around him or being evasive or somehow don't seem close enough to him. If it's just the three of us, maybe there's an explanation, but I don't know. That's what I think.
I go back to the big relief. I look for a second Chauncey. If there are multiple Akkas, there could be the same magic.
So
if this magic creates and corrupts.
Is Chauncey on our side too?
Well, here's the thing. Yeah, Chauncey is standing right alongside you. But also the unseen enemy, the context clues of it, lead you to this eerily certain conclusion that all of you, including Chauncey, are fighting Chauncey, or a thing that Chauncey has done, or something that has been unleashed on the world that is invariably the work of Chauncey. The more you think about how to explain how certain you are about that, the harder it gets to.
There's an expression. You never give a baby a fireball because it will get upset and it will use it. So,
classic knowledge. Parenting 101.
We need... Chauncey's gonna be involved somehow. We need to guide him to make... I don't know.
You do come to some accord on this. And when you do, you leave this sacred place. And the door to the carving room closes behind you. And then the heavy outer door closes. And then finally the gate. And you make your way down the mountain.
And I guess from here on out, we will help the helpless.
When you return to the plateau, your 5 companions are there, still guarding Tobias. They all see your approach, and so kind of they're at this point they kind of drop their defense. And Tobias looks up and says, "Have you come to a conclusion about what I say?"
We trust you.
Then the great work of our cause now begins. And we're going to end it right there.
John!
Yeah.
Man.
Fate and prophecy and holy visions and the future and the past all...
We've all joked Chauncey's going to be the real villain. And then it happened.
We sensed it. We knew it was going to happen.
I didn't roll any dice regarding that.
That is true. That is true.
Could have been someone we didn't know at all. Ever.
Yeah,
Who could even say, really?
Gosh,
how it all worked
it's
out.
so underwhelming. It is
Mhm.
a guy, you know his name's Mike.
Yeah, so there's a baker. You kind of trashed his bakery, you and a duck. Like,
Oh,
it's
no!
Uh,
I did it!
Winnie, Ronaldo, Raz, great work. Audience and those of you in the Twitch chat, thank you so much for watching and playing and making your own prophecies in real time. We have been Knights of Prospect. We are right here on 2MB Studios on Twitch every Saturday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard. If you thought, geez, that was epic, they're talking about the past, and you want to learn more about our past, you've got two options on how to do that. Get the Knights of Prospect podcast wherever you get your podcasts, or search Knights of Prospect on YouTube and see all of our smiling faces there as well. We've got tons of options, which means you've got tons of options. Also, if you like how this game is being run and how we're using improvisation to build characters and plot and terrifying fate twists, then there is a great class on improvisation in role-playing being offered by our partners at 3weeks.courses. The January class in improv and role-playing is enrolling now, as well as great January and February classes across a variety of subjects that are tailored for adults to do big, interesting, exciting things in 3 weeks. Folks, thank you as always for joining us, and we will see you next time. Good night from your Knights of Prospect.